8 Rarest Sleeper Cars of the 1990s. Hidden beneath the unassuming exteriors of some 1990s cars lies shocking performance that defies expectations. These sleeper cars may look ordinary, but under the hood, they pack serious power capable of leaving modern performance cars in the dust. In this video, Muscle Car Masters takes you through 8 rarest sleeper cars of the 1990s forgotten machines that delivered serious speed while flying under the radar. From turbocharged sedans to unsuspecting V8 coupes, these cars prove you should never judge a book by its cover. In our last video, we uncovered the 8 rarest and weirdest sleeper cars of the 90s, and now we're back with more hidden firepower. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Muscle Car Masters for more hidden gems from the golden era of performance. (1991) Isuzu Impulse RS Turbo. Back in the early 90s, while Detroit was fixated on big V8s and the Japanese automakers were fighting for tuner dominance, Isuzu quietly dropped one of the most overlooked performance gems of the era, the 1991 Impulse RS Turbo. This wasn't your typical hot hatch or boy racer. No wild wings, no neon graphics, just pure, function-first engineering. It looked more like a college kid's commuter than a performance car, but under the hood and beneath the skin, it had serious bite, and that's exactly what makes it a true sleeper. This little-known rocket was powered by a turbocharged 1.6-liter dual overhead cam inline-4, engine code 4XE1, making 160 horsepower and 150 pound-feet of torque. It came mated exclusively to a 5-speed manual transmission and sent power to all 4 wheels through an advanced torque-on-demand all-wheel drive system, developed specifically for traction in both wet and dry conditions. Weighing just 2,855 pounds, the Impulse RS had a great power-to-weight ratio for its class. From a stop, it could sprint to 60 miles per hour in just 6.5 seconds and top out around 130. But the real magic wasn't in the straight-line numbers, it was in the handling. The suspension was fully independent, with McPherson struts up front and multi-link in the rear, tuned by none other than Lotus engineering. Combine that with vented front disc brakes, 15-inch alloy wheels, and a limited slip rear differential, and you had a serious canyon carver hiding in plain sight. It didn't shout for attention, it earned it every time you pushed it into a corner or off the line. Balanced, nimble, and surprisingly quick, it was built to surprise. Only about 800 units made it to the United States for 1991, the Impulse RS's only year on American roads, making it one of the rarest Japanese sleepers ever sold here. So the next time someone says Isuzu only made trucks, remind them of the little coupe that could and did. 1995 Chrysler LHS 3.5-liter V6. In the mid-90s, Chrysler was known more for minivans and cab-forward design than high performance, but the 1995 Chrysler LHS quietly bucked that trend. Marketed as a luxury flagship, this full-size sedan offered surprising speed and agility, earning its place as one of the most underrated sleepers of its time. For muscle car fans used to V8 growl, the LHS flew under the radar, but don't let its calm exterior fool you. Under the hood sat a 3.5-liter single overhead cam, 24-valve V6, good for 214 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque. Power was routed through a 4-speed automatic transmission, giving the LHS smooth, consistent thrust. Despite its large frame and front-wheel drive layout, the car could sprint from 0 to 60 in 7.8 seconds quick for a luxury cruiser of that era. On the highway, it was a smooth and stable runner, capable of silently overtaking traffic, while the driver stayed wrapped in leather-lined comfort. Built on the advanced LH platform, The LHS had independent suspension at all four corners and a wide track that helped it handle with confidence. With its quiet cabin, upscale features, and unexpected performance, the LHS was a true Q ship, a car built for comfort that could surprise any unsuspecting challenger. It's the kind of machine older enthusiasts appreciate. Subtle on the outside, with just enough power under the hood to make things interesting. And speaking of interesting, wait until you hear about the supercharged cat Mercury built in 1990. 1990 to 1991. Chevrolet Lumina Euro 3.4 DOHC. Now, here's one most people wouldn't expect to see on a list like this: the 1990 to 1991 Chevrolet Lumina Euro 3.4 DOHC. To the average driver, the Lumina looked like your typical GM family sedan, bland, boxy, and straight from the airport rental lot. But underneath that unassuming shell lurked a powertrain that made it one of the most underrated GM sleepers of the early 90s. What made this Lumina special was the optional 3.4-liter LQ1 V6, a dual overhead cam, 24-valve engine that pumped out 210 horsepower and 215 pound-feet of torque. This was the same high-strung power plant used in the Pontiac Grand Prix GTP and Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. But what made the Lumina even rarer was the availability of a 5-speed manual transmission, turning it into a legitimate front-wheel drive muscle sedan. With the stick shift and the high-revving LQ1 under the hood, the Lumina Euro could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in the low 7-second range, very respectable numbers for a car that looked like it belonged in a school parking lot. The LQ1 engine was no slouch. It redlined at 7,000 RPM, featured aluminum heads, forged internals, and was one of GM's most ambitious V6 of the time. Paired with a sport-tuned suspension and subtle Euro trim enhancements, this car offered a surprisingly engaging driving experience, especially for those in the know. If you ever wanted to fly under the radar while still having some grunt under your foot, this was your ride. And speaking of surprises, our next sleeper comes with a turbo badge and a serious pedigree. Don't leave the screen. 1992 Mazda 929. When it comes to 90s sleepers, the 1992 Mazda 929 is one of the most surprising. At first glance, it looks like just another conservative luxury sedan, sleek, understated, and built more for comfort than speed. But behind its subtle design lies a rear-wheel drive platform, a smooth V6 engine, and performance characteristics that rivaled European sedans of the same era. For muscle car fans aged 45 and up, who grew up with rear-wheel drive V8s, the 929 offers an unexpected reminder that performance doesn't always come wrapped in flashy muscle. Under the hood was a 3.0-liter dual overhead cam V6 engine code JEZE, producing 195 horsepower and 203 pound-feet of torque. While that might not sound aggressive, the engine delivered buttery smooth acceleration and an impressively strong mid-range. Mated to a 4-speed automatic and pushing power to the rear wheels, the 929 could reach a top speed north of 140 miles per hour. It clocked 0 to 60 in the high 7-second range. In a straight line or at highway speeds, it was quiet, composed, and unexpectedly quick, an Autobahn cruiser built for long-distance speed. Mazda's engineers also focused on chassis refinement. The suspension was fully independent, giving the 929 impressive handling composure for a large sedan. It was heavy for its class, but with well-balanced weight distribution and precise steering, it delivered a confident, smooth ride. Most folks never gave it a second glance, but that was exactly the point. This was a luxury cruiser that could quietly leave competitors in the dust. And if you thought this quiet Japanese sedan was a surprise, wait until you see what Dodge built to take on BMW. With a turbo. 1991 Dodge Daytona IROC RT. If there was ever a car that embodied the phrase, "Don't judge a book by its cover," it's the 1991 Dodge Daytona IROC RT. By the early 90s, the Daytona was already seen as a relic of the 80s boxy, wedge-shaped, and largely overlooked. But this special version, built in extremely limited numbers, was Dodge's middle finger to the status quo. Only 500 units were produced for one model year, making it not just a sleeper, but a bona fide unicorn. Under that familiar sheet, metal was something completely unexpected, a 2.2-liter Turbo 3 inline-4, co-developed with Lotus, packing an intercooled turbocharger that cranked out 224 horsepower and 217 pound-feet of torque. Paired with a robust Getrag, a 568 5-speed manual, this front-wheel drive missile could rocket from 0 to 60 in just 5.8 seconds. That made it faster than many contemporary V8 Camaros and Mustangs, and it wasn't shy about pulling hard all the way to its redline. What made the Turbo 3 special wasn't just its output, it was the brutal way it delivered power. Boost hit hard and fast, delivering a raw, almost race car-like experience that caught many drivers off guard. It was loud, raucous, and alive in your hands. Despite its front-wheel drive layout, the Daytona IROC RT handled well thanks to stiffer suspension tuning, 4-wheel disc brakes, and performance tires on 16-inch wheels. So don't you dare leave your screen just yet, because coming up next is a turbocharged Japanese coupe that carried McLaren's fingerprints and the kind of punch that could humble a Mustang. 1992 Infiniti M30 Coupe. At first glance, the 1992 Infiniti M30 looked like a typical early 90s Japanese luxury coupe, long, soft, and clearly built more for country club parking lots than canyon carving. But dig deeper, and you'll find one of the most overlooked sleeper platforms of the decade. Built on Nissan's Y31 chassis, the M30 was essentially a rebadged version of the Japanese market Nissan Leopard, but with a few key changes that made it quietly appealing to American muscle fans. Power came from a 3.0-liter single overhead cam VG30E V6, making 162 horsepower and 180 pound-feet of torque, paired to a 4-speed automatic. On paper, those numbers were nothing to brag about, but what made the M30 interesting was its rear-wheel drive layout and fully independent suspension at all 4 corners borrowed straight from the Japanese Skyline. That meant it had balance, poise, and a handling foundation most American coupes lacked at the time. While not fast out of the box, 0 to 60 hovered around 9 seconds, the M30 found its fanbase among tuners and drifters in the early 2000s. Enthusiasts loved its Skyline-like suspension geometry and rear-wheel drive setup. Many swapped in twin-cam VG30DE engines or even turbocharged RB power plants, transforming this sleepy coupe into a legitimate street weapon. For those with vision, the M30 was a blank slate with big potential. Stick around because up next is a convertible that's all-American, V6 powered, and available with a 5-speed manual. Don't blink, the next sleeper's got the top down and the power turned up. 1995 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme Convertible 3.4 DOHC V6. Here's a sleeper that nobody saw coming, especially not with the top down. The 1995 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme Convertible may look like a relaxed cruise night ragtop built for coastal drives and Sunday car shows, but hiding beneath its long hood is a high-revving surprise. This wasn't just a boulevard cruiser, it had a pulse. And for those who knew how to spec it right, it delivered a truly unexpected dose of performance. Under the hood was GM's ambitious 3.4-liter dual overhead cam LQ1 V6, making 215 horsepower at 5,200 RPM and 225 pound-feet of torque, at 4,000. That engine was part of GM's early push for multi-valve technology in the 90s and was shared with the Lumina Z34 and Grand Prix GTP. But what made the Cutlass Supreme Convertible truly rare was the 5-speed Getrag manual transmission, almost unheard of in a front-wheel drive convertible of its size. When paired with the stick shift, this drop-top Cutlass could sprint from 0 to 60 in just 7.1 seconds, right in Mustang GT territory at the time. Despite its soft, stylish appearance, it had sport suspension tuning, a braced chassis, and a subtle growl that hinted at its real capability. It wasn't light, and it wasn't flashy, but it had just enough torque and attitude to leave some V8 drivers blinking in disbelief. Don't take your eyes off the screen, because next up is an all-wheel drive turbo coupe that tore up the quarter mile and made even Ferraris look twice. 1991 Eagle Talon TSi AWD. Closing out our list is one of the most iconic yet underrated performance coupes of the early 90s, the 1991 Eagle Talon TSi AWD. For many, the Eagle brand barely registered back then. But to car guys in the know, especially those who loved boost and traction, the Talon was a beast in disguise. Built under the Diamond Star Motors partnership between Chrysler and Mitsubishi, the Talon shared its roots with the Eclipse GSX and the Laser RS Turbo, but it had just enough styling and presence to stand apart. At its heart was the legendary 2.0-liter turbocharged 4G63 inline-4. In stock form, it produced 195 horsepower and 203 pound-feet of torque, paired to a robust 5-speed manual and full-time all-wheel drive. The result? A 0 to 60 time of 6.2 seconds, putting it toe-to-toe with Mustangs, Camaros, and even some European coupes. But the Talon wasn't just about straight-line speed. Thanks to that AWD layout and a well-balanced chassis, it could carve corners with shocking grip. And while tuners quickly found the 4G63 could handle over 300 horsepower with the right mods, even a stock Talon could humble much louder machines at the stoplight. Which of these 1990s sleepers shocked you the most? Did you own one, race one, or maybe get surprised by one at a stoplight back in the day? We'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment below and let us know which car deserves a second look or what sleeper we should feature next. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Muscle Car Masters. Your support keeps these forgotten legends alive. More rare muscle, hidden power, and untold stories are coming soon, so stick around. See you in the next episode of Muscle Car Masters.